Team Canada can't score, can't stay out of the box, and can't win. And it is the Winter Classic. All it's cracked out to be, all on today's 1420 Sports Bar podcast. Four Beer Sports talking a whole lot more. Let's get into her.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
1420 Sports Bar podcast. Four Beer Sports talking a whole lot more. Join host Brent Radlinski as he bellies up to the bar and gets the conversations going that'll make you think you're sitting in your local watering room. It's sports, beer, and shenanigans. So sit back, grab a few beers, and let's get in. All right, the 1420 Sports Bar podcast, Four Beer Sports talking a whole lot more for this New Year's Day, January 1st, 2025. Today's show, as always, is brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420SEAT at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to BellyUpSports.com for all their great articles and great podcasts as well on the media side of things. Can be looking forward to doing some work with some of those fine gentlemen in the very near future. Not a lot of females to Belly Up Sports. Gonna have a chat with them about that, actually. Just thought of that. Progressive here at the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. And thanks everybody who's listens to our show on a daily basis, subscribes and all that stuff. And I hope you had a good New Year's Eve and kept her easy and kept her safe and everything else. And all the best to everybody in 2025 moving forward. Anyways, where do we start? Which steaming pile of crap do we start with? Do we start with the Team Canada getting smoked last night by the Americans in the World Junior Tournament, or do we go to the Winter Classic, I guess the Winter Unclassic in Chicago at Wrigley Field? Actually, let's start with the World Junior Tournament last night in Ottawa. Canada got beat 4-1. Can't stay out of the box, can't score, can't do anything right. Just not a very good hockey club at the moment. They got one more game to figure it out, or it might be thanks by see ya this time tomorrow. Just not a good look for this Canadian team. Undisciplined right through. Gave up 3 power play goals. Dave Cameron the coach, who I said in yesterday's show, I'm not a big fan of, and he kind of put an exclamation point on that last night after Canada's humiliating defeat at home on the New Year's Eve, which is the actual classic. It's been a lot of years since that happened. I thought it was more of an annual thing, but because they had the way the pools work out, but that's neither here nor there now, because I don't want to see the Americans that much anymore as it stands. But Dave Cameron, in his usual idiotic self, basically said there's nothing he can do about the undisciplined nature of his hockey club. You can't bench guys, you can't reduce their ice time. They got a stern finger wagging per se, and they got to figure it out themselves because it's a short tournament. You can't have your best players on the bench. Well, I completely disagree. These guys have been told throughout their lives, and we'll get into this in a little bit in a bit, but we got to remember these are just kids, and they're 17 to 19 years old, 16 to 19, 17. I guess McKenna just turned 17. They're just kids who don't know any better, and they full of enthusiasm and piss and vinegar and everything else. They just couldn't tear the box last night. 11 minor penalties, even after. So this is why Cameron's statement yesterday is even worse. Because after they're scared of Germany, where they said they couldn't get any momentum going because of all the time they're spending in the penalty box, can't get anything going. You think that would have been this wake up call that he was talking about last night. But if he doesn't do anything about it, what are these kids going to do? Like, they're just creatures of habit. They're going to keep taking penalties. They're going to keep being undisciplined, and that's what happened last night. And if the coach and the adults don't want to run the asylum, well, the inmates will, and that's what's happening with this Team Canada, who just does not look good at all. And you hate to say this because they are just kids, and there is a lot of pressure on them. Like I said yesterday, the entire country was watching this hockey game last night, was waiting to erupt, waiting to have a good time, waiting to celebrate the New Year's. I mean, you don't let it ruin your night. It's just a sporting event, a bunch of kids playing in a hockey game. which it's if you put it in perspective, that's what it is. I didn't let it ruin my night. Me and Deanna had a pretty good time regardless. But it's you look at this team and they're just not very likable, and it comes back to this the entitlement syndrome, and they're just not a very likable group of kids. They got in some adversity last night and they didn't like it. Easton Cowan's the whipping boy of this hockey team, and rightfully so. He's took some bad penalties throughout. A really bad one last night when the Americans scored. The American kids weren't afraid to chirp a little bit, and I got no problem with that. Like I have no problem with that at all. If you earn that right to do something, you scored a goal and you can shove it right up someone's rear end, go ahead and do it. And that's what the Americans did yesterday on multiple occasions. They pushed. The Canadians pushed back, but the Americans pushed harder. And it was a Canada outshot them 38-23 or something. But all those outside perimeter shots that don't mean a whole bunch, and the just couldn't get anything going. It's just a bad look. And that American team, like in that first period, the way they were just flying, I was like, holy Christ, this one's going to be this might be a 8-2, 9-2 kind of a game. But Canada held in there. Their goalie was good enough, George there. But they just they couldn't get anything going because of their undisciplined nature, and that comes right from the coach. And if the coach doesn't want to discipline these guys, doesn't want to sit them down, doesn't want to yell, doesn't want to tear back, doesn't want to do whatever it's got to do, well, then this is the outcome you're going to have. And the outcome that you're going to have, it could be done tomorrow night. Czechia is a good hockey team, and Canada's just not. They're just not right now, and that's another problem that Canada has right now is that the Hockey Canada in itself has a bad look on itself and a bad image, not just on the ice but off the ice as well. And this tournament could have done some damage, or could have helped out this the Hockey Canada the structure a little bit. That could have helped out the Hockey Canada's perception around the public here in Canada. But now with this team playing the way they are, being undisciplined, not doing what they're supposed to be doing, not being real good ambassadors, this is kind of what people are spouting off about today. And you can't blame people for being upset. You can't blame people for not liking Hockey Canada with all the stuff that's going off the ice, and then the on the ice stuff kind of just melds into what their culture is, where the inmates run the asylum. And this was happening. Like it's not a good look. The old boys club, as we've talked about for years with Hockey Canada, is rearing its ugly head. Why is Dave Cameron this coach? He's 60 whatever years old. This guy couldn't be any more out of touch with how today's athlete is. You look at the American coach, he's 35 years old, seems to be very enthusiastic, likes the kids, seems to be engaging, whereas this Cameron guy is just an idiot. And it's his fault. Like, you can blame the kids all you want. These kids are most are going to go onto the National Hockey League, make a few bucks, and Cameron's just a junior hockey coach. I mean, it's an accomplishment, obviously, but these kids are going to forget about this moment the second it's done. It hasn't went well. It's not going to go well. You can't see this thing like there's. I'm not going to put this thing to bed yet, but you can't see this thing changing around within 48 hours, especially after hour 12. They didn't even practice today. They called it off. So yeah, we're just going to stay away from the rink, clear our heads. Well, that doesn't work. Like, you got to get back on the ice. You got to figure something out. You're not scoring goals. You're not getting any quality shots. You're not doing anything right. You're not doing a thing right. And to stay away from the rink for a day because you feel a little butthurt, I don't know. To me, it might work. I don't know. But to me, you got to get back to work and get something going and figure out why you can't score in the power play, why you're giving up power play goals nonstop. Like, it's gave up 3 power play goals in the empty netter last night, and there's a hockey game. Like, yeah, sure, you outshot the Americans, but what did you do? Nothing. All shots from the outside. You were getting beat up and left, right, and center, outskated, everything. Canada had a little bit of a pushback. There was a little bit of a melee in the corner at the end of the first period, and I thought, hey, a little bit of grit, a little bit of grime, like I was saying in yesterday's show, that this is something Canada need to do, is push back a little bit and show the Americans that Canada's still boss, and Canada did that at the end of the first period, but it just didn't matter because the Americans pushed right back and they laughed at us. Like, the Americans basically, they're a little bit cocky too. I mean, kids are kids, but the Americans pushed back and they were laughing at Canada. Like, when that kid from Canada, from the U.S. scored that first goal and he put his fingers in his ears, like Jeremy Rowe, when Patrick Waugh told that to, was it Roenick, plugging his ears with Stanley Cup rings all those years ago. That's what these American kids did. They had a little bit of flair, they had a little bit of pushback, they had a little bit of bite to them, and they won the hockey game. plain and simple. And it wasn't a good look. Let's talk about this for half a second. It was a really bad look. First I thought that Mike Johnson, or is it Mike Johnson? Yeah, he's the color guy complaining about the referees. Don't complain about the referees, man. Like, quit it. Like, I agree with you that some of the calls weren't warranted. I totally understand that, but complaining about every single call, it was just a whiny look, and it's like typical Canadian look. The refs are beating us. No one beats Canada, but the refs can. So it's just a bad look. And then for the refs or the people in Ottawa to start yelling, "Refs, you suck." No, yeah, refs weren't great. They weren't perfect. But 99% of those calls last night were penalties. If you wrap your stick around a guy's head, that's a penalty. If you slash a guy in the hand, that's a penalty. If you push him behind into the boards, that's a penalty. And for these kids to be arguing with the refs after the fact, whining about it because somebody told them, you can't do this, first time in their life probably, because the coach isn't doing it. The coach isn't telling him to stay out of the box. He basically said he can't do anything about it. So the refs start telling these kids to do it, and then they're chirping at the refs. That tells you exactly what this hockey team is about. This tells you exactly what kind of determination. This tells you exactly what kind of balls that this hockey team has. A little bit of adversity, and this team just folded. They folded like Rita McNeil in a cheap lawn chair Canadian Tire. That's all that was. Like, it was a bad look for Team Canada last night. A bad look on the fans for chanting at the refs. At least by the end of the game, they were kind of booing the Canadian team, which is not really a cool thing to do, considering, like I said, these kids are 17 to 19 years old. But it just wasn't a good look all around for Hockey Canada, for the team, for the coach, for the fans, for all of it last night in front of millions of people watching on TV. It was just a bad hockey game. Like, it just didn't. Yeah, they had a few chances and they gave it all up in the third period, and it was just over. You never felt from the get go. This was just me. I never felt from the get go the way that America team was skating that they even had a chance. That Canada didn't have a chance in the first period, and the goalie held them in. And like, I was looking at the clock, and they didn't have many shots, like 5-3. Like, what the heck's going on? But a lot of missed nets. And this Canadian team, like that Cowan kid, like, shoot it 3 feet over the net, hit the damn net, make the goalie make a save, get a whistle, get a rebound, whatever it might be. Hey, it might even go in. If you miss the net, it'll never go in. I guarantee you. Especially if you go high. You can miss wide to hit somebody off the ankle or off the ass and go in the net. You might have a chance there. But if you're shooting it 3 feet above the net, that ain't going in. I hate to break it to you. It ain't going in. Like, I don't understand how that is such a thing. And missing the net, like, you can't miss the net. Like, shooting for pinholes. I don't understand it. Put it on net. Get a rebound, get a deflection, get something. If you shoot it over the net, it ain't going in. Because you know what? You got to high stick it, then it's not a goal anyway. So what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? It was a bad look on the Canadian team last night. They just don't got it. I hope I'm wrong. It's not over yet. They have a few more chances to get it. They have one chance tomorrow against Czechia to get something done, get something rolling, stay out of the penalty box, and just maybe score a goal. They haven't given up anything 5-on-5, but you're in the penalty box all the time, so you can't get anything going. Like, it's impossible to get anything going when you're always in the penalty box and killing penalties. That's 22 minutes last night where they're killing penalties. Yeah, obviously they got out of the box sooner when the goal was scored, but half the game you're killing penalties. You aren't going to win hockey games that way. You can't get anything going offensively that way. Like, what little offense that they do have, there's just nothing. Like, the line matchups don't make sense. The defensive pairings don't make sense. None of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. And Cameron's just out of touch. They have the wrong guy behind it. It's the old boys club who got Cameron in there. And I read somewhere that he wasn't supposed to be the coach, but he's in Ottawa. So they just made something happen in the summer. I can't remember what it was. You read so many damn things throughout the day, but it was just a bad hockey game for Canada. Like, it couldn't get any worse for on a New Year's Eve, which is supposed to be the big one in Canada, and it just came up a dud. It came up an absolute dud. And this team is unlikable. You hate to say it about a bunch of 17 to 19-year-old kids, but this is especially about a Team Canada, which I'm 100% behind during the World Juniors. I have been watching this entire tournament, but this team is just unlikable. It's just there's nothing there, and the stuff that is there is negative. Like, it's just a negative hockey team. It's a negative group. There's not a lot of smiling going on. There's just a lot of entitlement going on. And it comes right from the coach, right on through. And if the coach doesn't want to discipline these guys, it just shows the entitlement of what these players are. So maybe it's not Cameron's fault. Maybe it's the parent. I blame parenting. You can probably blame parenting. It's yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't look to me that Hockey Canada is going in the right direction. Are we going to have a hockey summit like we did all those years ago? Probably not. There is some problems with the management and everything else with Hockey Canada. There is some things going on with the sexual assault situation that the Hockey Canada cleared house. They lost some money because sponsors bailed out, and then so this is what Hockey Canada is. Maybe everybody else is onto something. It's just there's many things going on with the organization right on through at different levels and teams flying, going different things here and there, leagues breaking away, and people not being sanctioned by Hockey Canada because this is the way it is. So you just maybe everybody else is onto something. Maybe I got to do a little bit of research and find out what's going on here. But it turns out it wasn't the bumper position. Turns out it wasn't the bumper position that was the problem. Turns out the team's the problem. That's what's the big. Turns out the coach is a problem. Turns out that the structure of the Hockey Canada is the problem. They might bounce back. I can't see it. I can't see they aren't beating the Americans. Like they aren't beating the Swedes. Like if they get by Czechia tomorrow, great. But then you got a couple, and you got to face the Americans again. I don't know. It just yeah, I don't know. It's just a really bad look for all these people involved, all these kids involved. The captain Brandon Yeager from the Leopard Hurricanes here. He's got to step up and say something. Maybe he's got to be an actual captain and say, hey, we can't be like this anymore. Maybe he's got to throw a stick in the dressing room or kick a garbage can or something. Maybe he's got to freak out because if the coach isn't going to, then maybe the captain has to do it. And that's maybe a captain's job, but it's such a short period of time. And these guys are all buddies and whatever it might be. And 2 days from now, they might not never see each other in the same group again. Maybe these kids just don't care, right? Maybe this Cowan kid's he's as much of an idiot as he seems to be. That might be it. He maybe he doesn't care. Maybe I'm Easton Cowan. I'm going to be on the Toronto Maple Leafs one day. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you won't be. Maybe this kind of a tournament, like the coaches be like, or GM or management be like, holy Christ, we don't want these guys on our team yipping at referees when they take penalties. It's a shitty look. It took me till 4:28 to throw a swear word here on New Year's Day 2025. First one of the day. Crazy. I've also been just talking to the voices in my head, not out loud. So kind of lock myself. That Peach Bowl game was really good. The Texas and Arizona State overtime, fantastic football game. I'm watching the Oregon Ohio State game right now, and it's not very good at all. It's quite bad. Quite shocked that what's it 34 to nothing right now. Yeah, 34 nothing Ohio State over a mighty Oregon Ducks. Kind of funny how the Rose Bowl didn't really go full circle. Now it's still a Big Ten and a Pac-10 team playing. It's just funny how that worked out. But yeah, it's too bad this tournament turned out the way it did. I'm not I'm going to watch tomorrow night. Hopefully they can pull a win together. Hopefully they can do something and pull themselves out of these doldrums. Stay out of the freaking penalty box. They got to stay out of the penalty box. They got to try to get something done. And we got to mix the coaches and mix the players, mix the lines up or something, because it's been an awful tournament for Team Canada. They got 2 wins. And they're 2-2. I mean, but the tournament doesn't start until tomorrow, anyways. If you really want to get down to it, get down to the elimination games, no matter what. That's when things get really get going. So there is still hope. I don't have much. I'm not going to hold my breath waiting for it. I'm going to still cheer for Team Canada. Hope they can pull something off. But they're the most unlikable group of players to wear the Maple Leaf in my memory, and that says a lot, because I've been watching this tournament for 40 plus years. And this group just hasn't not tugging on the heartstrings in a positive way by any means. Anyways, the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, 4 Beer Sports Talk, and a whole lot more.